Welcome to the Town of Camden Select Board meeting for March 1st, 2022. We are, while having some difficulties, I want to again announce that we are a hybrid, and if anybody's interested in joining via Zoom, they can do so with the link that is shown on our agenda that is in the Camden website under Select Board and under the March 1st packet. In terms of rules and of order, we please request that if anybody on Zoom wants to ask a question, please state your name and address as we require of people who are present here. Is that what I sound like?
We can't hear you.
No, we have a little audio problem in the back of the room that Bruce is fixing. Are we all set, Bruce?
I'm all set, sir.
All right. Back to what I was saying, we give the same privileges to a person on Zoom as we do to anybody that's here. If you want to raise your hand and be recognized and brought as a panelist, ask a question or address us, we can do so by, again, raising your hand. If you have a question, please, you must state who, your name and residency per statute. Lastly, do not use the chat function. We will not be monitoring that. So with that, we would like to get into our established agenda. The first item we have is public input on non-agenda items. Do we have anybody who would like, I can see hands going up. Ray? And you know the drill, Ray.
Okay, it's okay if I take this off?
Let me just have, I just got a text from Jeremy Martin. Can't hear anyone other than Sophie on Zoom.
Yeah,
No, he can now.
We can now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, okay, got it.
Go ahead, Ray.
Okay. Ray Andreessen, Cove Road, Camden. On behalf of our Save the Dam Falls Committee, I would like to thank the 500 Camden voters who signed our petition to protect, preserve, maintain, and repair the Montgomery Dam near Harbor Park. I would also like to report that those petition signatures were turned in to the town clerk's office last week, and that the required number of signatures has already been verified to place our petition as a warrant article on the June 14th ballot this year. The purpose of this warrant article is to prevent the destruction or removal of Montgomery Dam and to preserve the Montgomery Dam and falls. We believe and are pleased that so many of our neighbors and fellow citizens agree with us that this historic dam and the beautiful waterfall that cascades over it are an important part of Camden's identity, one that should be preserved and cherished for future generations. We also contend that the Montgomery Dam does not need to be removed for the purpose of flood mitigation or fish passage on the McGonagall River. According to the interfluve report that was commissioned by the town of Camden, the Montgomery Dam has minimal to no impact on upstream flooding of the McGonagall River. In addition, a fish ladder could be incorporated into a refurbished Montgomery Dam, just as fish ladders will have to be built at other dams along the river to allow fish passage all the way into Lake McGonagall. Most of the people in Camden that we have talked to are appalled, dumbfounded, and even offended by the idea of destroying our beautiful, historic downtown waterfall. And this petition and warrant article will give them a chance to save one of the crown jewels of Camden. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
And
Thank you very much.
Have copies of this for your records if you want to.
Thank you, Ray.
there.
Well, it's recorded.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. Did I see another hand back there? Tony?
No surprise. I'm Tony Grassi. Do you mind?
Nope. Your call.
I'm a resident of Camden, 363 Belfast Road. I'm here today as a representative of Restore McGonagall. We support reestablishing the historical river connectivity and fish migration patterns, improving ecosystem health, and enhancing flood resiliency. Camden taxpayers now have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make essential infrastructure improvements with grants from NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. If we miss this opportunity, we'll almost certainly end up paying higher taxes to rebuild town property damaged by flooding that's bound to come as a result of severe weather events coming from climate change. Another benefit of the grants is that they require and pay for naturalized fish passage. That's naturalized fish passage. There's a distinction between that and fish ladders, an important distinction. From the harbor to McGonagall Lake. NOAA's mission emphasizes restoring native fisheries. Naturalized passage can be readily achieved at Seabright, East, and West dams. Obviously, there will always be a waterfall at the head of Camden Harbor. To suggest otherwise is not true. The river drops 15 feet to the sea over natural bedrock, and the fact that the concept of the falls disappearing is just patently out of line, I think. Our river could be an amazing ecological and recreational resource for this town, but large sections are mostly now either ignored or unseen. I've been amazed at how many people don't know the river, don't know where it goes, don't know which dam is which. Some people think the one in the harbor is called Seabright. There's an incredible lack of familiarity, even from longtime Camden residents. They are partly blocked. Large sections are ignored, and they are partly blocked by derelict structures that need to be modified or removed. Just look what happened in downtown Camden last October 31st, or in Vermont in 2014 and 2017. That's a taste of whether to come and the impact that climate change is going to have on all of New England, but Camden is no exception. These challenges are immediate and they're complex. They can't be wished away with slogans. It's way past time to broaden the dialogue about our best options, a dialogue that should include any Camden resident who wants to participate in these conversations. We need to know about state-of-the-art solutions involving hydrology, engineering, ecology, and historical preservation. All options should be on the table in our view. Since last year, Restore McGonagall has asked the Select Board to appoint a citizen advisory committee that would lead this public process. We urge you to move forward immediately with naming such a committee. Our community wants to be informed about the full range of issues from the harbor to the lake. We believe most people will agree to the best solution if presented with accurate, comprehensible information. The advisory committee would give a forum for people to ask questions, for experts to testify, so that the public can be educated and can voice whatever concerns they might have. Like other coastal communities, we are at a significant crossroads. We're running out of time to reverse the damage from our earlier dam and dump industrial heritage. All over Maine, rivers are being restored and obstructions are being removed. Towns that turned their backs on the rivers and used them as basically effluent removal are now turning to rivers as ways to rejuvenate their communities. We could learn a great deal from these other experiences. With federal and state assistance, we should take this cost-free opportunity, protect ourselves from flooding and sea level rise. We can do that and have a beautiful river that will be a wonderful resource for our town and an attraction for visitors to our town. We can meet our sustainability goals and know that we're doing the right thing for future generations. Again, I urge you to move forward immediately with a Citizens Advisory Committee and get this process started.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. Those are the only two. Mr. Gold.
This is not a third dam proposal.
You just wanted to use the word dam. I know you.
I was recently reviewing the select board meeting or working session of December 9th, 1921, which had an extensive meeting with a representative from Ransom Engineering.
What was the date again?
21?
21? 1921?
Sorry, 2021.
I wasn't alive then.
Okay.
2021. Time
Believe it or
travel.
not.
I thought Ransom has been in business longer than I thought.
Yeah. Anyway, we got your point. 2021.
Okay. The point is, he laid out a rough schedule of things that would be done, should be done.
starting with the ABCA, which I don't think I have to repeat for you the names of all these different things. That was supposed to be completed between January 15th and February 15th of this year, 22. It is now March. I have not seen any written ABCA. I have not heard about an ABCA, and I have not seen Ransom Engineering at one of these meetings. That was to be followed by something called the RAP, which was supposed to be completed at the same time. And these reports would instigate a public comment period. And the public comment period, which would have been stipulated in the community relations program, which again has not been written, has not been submitted, has not been heard of. After that, there's a whole series of things of data gap sampling, the thing that sounds like Sasquatch, that long abbreviation, all right, and more data sampling, et cetera. In other words, we're way behind, and I fear, first of all, I'm wondering about two things. One is, has the select board not been keeping Ransom's feet to the fire to get this done? There is a deadline on this grant. The engineer himself has stated that the grant would probably not be extended or renewed because we've already had an extension. Or for some reason, do you guys want to kill the grant? Killing the grant would mean ultimately we as taxpayers, since at some point we're going to want to get this remediated, would suffer that cost. So I'm wondering if you guys have a solution to this timing problem, and if you think it's at all realistic to even get this done by September 30th.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you. We're not going to address a non-agenda item here, but thank you for coming and underscoring what we already know. Thank you very much. Anybody else that wanted to speak? I didn't see any other hands. With that, we'll move on to approval of the board minutes for both February. Yes?
I'm sorry, the sound is not coming very clearly anymore. It used to be crystal clear.
Here, let me just, you want me to set it up where?
Well, not really. You can't. Sophie, you've gone mute now.
Well, that's because I wasn't sure if Allison wanted
Oh.
to. Yeah. My screen, I don't have an adapter to hook up to a screen, so.
1 minute, Sophie.
You don't need an adapter, you just. Oh, okay. Oh, Wi-Fi, yeah.
Why don't you keep it on yours for
Okay.
now, and then I can.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
zoom and I'll-
Sophie, can you hear us at all? Okay, good. All right, with that, I want to address the board meeting minutes for we're just hooking up for February 1st and February 15th. Any comments on the first?
No comments.
Motion.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes, board minutes for February 1st, 2022.
Okay. Sophie, I can't hear you again.
Yeah, Jeremy's telling me that,
Yes.
we obviously are gonna,
Yeah.
it's my fault, I apologize to everybody, for being late, but it's pretty obvious we're having some audio problems.
We weren't before.
Let's take a,
Well,
I mean,
It
Sophie
might-
and Jeremy are both.
my
recording
computer's
at the
having a
same
hard time handling this.
What?
time. My,
I'm getting the spinning wheel of death because my
would
computer's.
you like me to reclaim the host position?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Well, she's a co-host.
well, she's. I
Do you
don't-
want,
I'm happy to intervene or not intervene.
Well, I just want to get the sound hooked up for those two somehow.
We'll have to.
oof.
I always tell Bob, never ever, the thing with the owl on it is not meant for that, but. That's exactly what.
Sophie says she can hear us well, but we just can't hear her. What happens if you, Sophie, if you unmute on Zoom?
The there's no way that can be functioning properly right now because we have cords hooked up to multiple things. Everything worked so smoothly for the parking meeting last night.
Go ahead.
I said I was sorry.
I know.
I don't know what else to say. Fine with the audio. It does appear that this is
That's right. Is it on?
muted.
Is it muted? It was on a minute ago.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, Jeremy can see you. Oh, and you can hear me now.
I can get rid of phone calls, Sophie.
Okay.
Perfect. Very faintly.
Hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
We listen on this, don't we?
You may need to turn, oh yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. There you go.
Can you say something, Sophie?
Yes, I can say something.
That was excellent. Thank you. Now I will share my screen here. Oh, and then we're going to need to do the... So, but the meeting can go on while I just do this. This will allow Bruce to bring Sophie up on the screen
Okay.
as desired.
She's up.
Well, yeah, but in order for her to be on the YouTube channel, she needs to be connected to this.
The viewers at home can hear.
Yes, she's on, for our purposes, she's
Okay.
able to say that now.
Okay. Audrey, are you muted?
I have the spinning wheel. So.
Okay. Okay. Sophie, can you still hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I thought
Yes,
I
yes,
had
yes.
muted myself.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hey, and we
All
got
right.
the thumbs up from Bruce, so.
Okay. All right, back to where we were, Sophie. We were talking about Mark.
We were going to have a Mark made a motion to approve the minutes, and I seconded, but I think that's when you lost me.
That's when we lost you. Are there any discussion regarding the February 1st meeting minutes motion and second? Not hearing any go for, I'm going to have to get a roll call vote from you, Sophie, but all those in favor here? 3. Sophie? Not?
I
Okay. 4-0 approved. Thank you. Now to the meeting minutes for February 15. Are there any comments on those meeting minutes?
No comments.
Motion?
I make a motion, we approve the board minutes for February 15th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor here? 3. Sophie? Approved 4-0. Thank you. Our third item on our agenda are 2 items for which we will have a public hearing. Just as a precursor, as we usually introduce public hearings, the purpose of the public hearing is for us to get hear anything from the public regarding the matters at hand. We request that if you do, please identify yourselves so we can have you address the select board. Please be courteous, please be brief and succinct as you can be. And we would appreciate your input. When all the public has an opportunity to speak to that item, we will close the public portion and revert to discussion by the select board. The public will not be invited to speak again unless any member of the select board has a question of somebody who has previously spoken. Having said that, the first item we have on our public hearing is an application of Dickey Steels Production LLC doing business as Wolf Peach at 50 Elm Street for a renewal of a Class 1 liquor license. Is there anybody here from the public that wants to speak to that? And I don't see anybody, so I'll close the public portion and revert to select board.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application of Dickey Steels Productions LLC, DBA Wolf Peach at 50 Elm Street for a renewal Class 1 liquor license.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion from any of the select board? Not hearing any, go for a vote here, please. Any, all those in favor? Three. Sophie?
Aye.
The liquor license is hereby approved. The second item on our public hearing is the application by John Rixon and Mary Kelly to construct a residential pier and seasonal gangway and float at 26 Harbor Road, Camden, Maine. I believe, Will, you'd like to speak to this first as pseudo-public?
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Will Gartley with Gartley and Dorsky, and I'm representing John Rixon and Mary Kelly on the application for their pier. They live at 26 Harbor Road, or will be living at 26 Harbor Road. And we've gone through the town's process and reviewed all the ordinances. We met with the Harbor Committee in December and got their approval or recommendation to move forward. We received planning board approval in January. And we've also, in end of December, early January, we also received approval from the Maine DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. Those reviews also involve the Inland Fisheries and Water and Department of Marine Resources reviews. The property is just to the left or the north of Harbor Road as it comes down to the harbor. And this pier meets all of the town dimensional requirements. We're about 86 feet from the mean high water line. The overall portion of the structure where it hits the ground and goes out towards low water is about 106 feet long. There's a 45-foot gangway and a 12 by 20 float that as a total extends 50 feet beyond the permanent fixed portion of the structure. And it's proposed to be supported by 2 granite cribs. We've provided a bunch of information, and the section in the ordinance that requires select board review is, I think it's section 6F, and there's a bunch of items in there that I think is what the select board is required to make findings on. Happy to answer
Let's
any
ask Allison if
questions.
we could draw just for the edification of everybody watching, the drawing that's in our packet. We can pull it up on the screen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can.
Yes, I can. I just need to, I've got so many screens going on here.
Take your time.
I haven't told
It's
my
easier
computer
to address it physically than.
where, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You got the packet.
Yeah, I just, sometimes things, I have to tell it which,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to share the notes I've made to myself for the,
Let's see. Can I do it on mine?
no, I'm just, it's,
Okay.
I mean, you can, but you just asked me to, so.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Oh, jeez. All right, hold on here.
Take your time.
It's just
It's
that
a pretty big drawing.
normally you're supposed to, it's not that, it's that normally you're supposed to, when you set up separate screens, you tell your computer where
Where it is.
it is in relationship to, so now it's going from over there to over here to now. Down onto. Oh, jeez.
If it doesn't work, it's not. I just thought it'd be nice to have it up. If we can't, we can't.
I just can't get,
It's page 52, Allison, of the packet.
yeah, I wish that were my issue. It's that, and you can see, it's that I have to go back and tell, oh, here we go. Now I'm on my main screen here. We're just going to go with mirror displays. Mirror,
What we're doing.
wow. So I'm going to go with this, and then we're going to go in here.
Yeah, it's in there still.
Trying to
You're
get the
close.
light.
You're really close.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Perfect. So this is the little devil we're talking about. correct?
That's it.
And there it goes. Good. That's perfect. Thanks, Allison.
Yeah?
Yeah, perfect. That's
Okay.
perfect.
No, no,
Not for you, Sophie?
no, but that's okay. I have it in the packet, but I'm not sure people can see it on Zoom.
They can see what's on the projector screen, and you were.
Projector, okay.
you were
So it's fine. I have it on the packet.
I'll
I'm
work
I'm
on
okay.
that in the background.
Don't worry.
Maybe you slide it down a little bit to show the elevation just below here, if you can, Allison. Yeah, perfect. So this is the little devil. It's got a lot of steps going onto it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's quite a elevation difference from
Uh-huh.
the shore up to the house elevation.
Before I jump into the select board, is anybody from the public would like to address this, Ray, would you please? And Ray, you already introduced yourself.
Okay, fine. I believe that the section between the two houses here is owned by the town, correct? And that's Harbor Avenue, the Harbor Overlook.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
to the south of
Okay,
Sorry,
how will
Bob.
this structure affect the overlook? As far as viewpoint, for people coming out today and there to take a look at the harbor? I know it's not developed to a point, but it is something the town owns and has advertised as
Are
an
you
overlook.
speaking to the end of Harbor, exact end of Harbor Road?
Harbor Road.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yep.
this is the house that the braces used to own?
No, this is to the north of that.
To the north of that, okay,
Yep, so the Braces, then Harbor Road, and then the Rixon Kelly property.
okay. All right, okay, I believe that's
Yeah, it's
the
right
section
there.
that goes out there.
To the south of this property, yes. In fact, you know what, Ray? I have, sorry for all the ruffling of papers, but I do have an aerial photograph that might be helpful in seeing. That's the pier that we're proposing. Right. That's the Brace Pier. And there's how we're.
Is Ray's question then simply looking at where this pier is in relation to the end of Harbor Road? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of distance, what is that?
It's about 150 feet.
North?
Yep. This property is 150 feet north. This pier is 150 feet north.
Thank you.
Yep. In fact, Harbor Road is almost centered between the Brace Pier and this proposed pier.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay. All right, any other public comments, questions? Okay, I'll revert then, close the public hearing portion, and revert to the select board questions. Mr. Racco.
I don't have any questions. I did sit through the planning board, most of the discussion about it, and there were two things that one of the members was concerned about. One was that there was a mooring possible that it would interfere with, and that two, at high tide, it would interfere with people kayaking underneath it. I understand both of those things. There was a note here in our packet from our harbor master that says that there's only one mooring that's involved, and he can talk to those people about that. And regarding the other one, you'd have to go around at high tide. Now, noting that one person in the planning board was aware of those things and brought that up, it still seems to me that everything legal that we have control over has been properly met by the people in the permitting.
The applicants.
Yeah, everything makes sense. It's going to change a few little things, but it's all within all the legal I's and T's have been dotted and crossed. And, I don't believe that there's any reason to deny the permit.
Other comments, Allison?
So I would caution us as seeing this as a black and white issue. If it were black and white, it would be one of those things where the code enforcement officer approves it. The way that the ordinance is set up is one of the most stringent review processes set up for anything that happens in town anywhere, requiring both the select board and the harbor committee actually before the planning board is what the ordinance says. So that was confusing to see that process kind of so jumbled up. But what it requires is that we go through a series of criteria that evaluate whether there is or isn't a substantial impact on a variety of things. And just as decisions differ about things based on who you elect to the Supreme Court, based on the interpretation of documents, that's the same for us. So is one mooring currently, is one public mooring, is that substantial or is that not substantial? That's going to depend on who you ask. Is there interference with access of the public to to the shores and flats for purposes of fishing and that kind of thing? That's subjective. Some people never go down to that access point on Harbor Road. I think Ray's comment really gets to the heart of what my concerns would be, is that the town has, from what I can see, and this is really just based on the input of many, many residents over time who have come to me and said the town just always tends to abandon the public interest or the public access in interest of private property owners. And that's not, I've heard nothing but wonderful things about the applicants. I've heard they seem to have made friends already. People, a couple people have called me and said, Allison, I think you would really like them. They'd probably be really willing to work with the town. And so I'm, actually eager to meet them and welcome them to town. But every single one of those harbor access points that we have on Sherman's Cove has been the subject of a legal dispute with a private property owner. And in all of the cases, I don't think it's the current property owner that the town has had the most trouble with necessarily, but in every case, the town has lost access that once was there. Sherman's Point is the perfect example of just constantly compromising with private property owners who put up signs that say, private property, no access, and then it relies on some resident who has historical knowledge saying, hey, we used to be able to walk down there, and then the town saying, well, I guess we'll send them a letter maybe. And so I think what we need to think about here is really looking at the impact and potential impact to public access. Currently, Harbor Road is not a well-developed access point, but Sherman's Cove is a town treasure that used to be the subject of, all of the Camden historical books, the tourist books. There were like 5-6 pages about Sherman's Cove, and there used to be a town park over there. There used to be all these things. People used to be able to go and sit out on the rocks. It is an ecological oasis that all Camden residents deserve, and really everybody deserves to have better access to. So I think it's been identified in many plans. The idea that Harbor Road, well, that's not really utilized, so people don't need to access it through there. I think that's false, and that it's a goal to be. So in one scenario, if people could get down there more easily, I think there are many people that might like to have a mooring there. There already is one mooring. So we're giving up public space that generates revenue for the town every year. We're already saying one mooring has to be displaced, but with sea level rise, the possibility for more moorings to be there is definitely a possibility. And then for smaller boats, if people can walk down on, ride their bike to Harbor Road, walk down there, many people would wade out to go see a kayak or something like that. So I think we need to look at it from that perspective, and also from the perspective of, I guess one of my main concerns is that the application itself, I know that just to hear you tonight, we'll say 106 feet. That just kind of shocked me, because the limit in the ordinance is 100 feet. And the Harbor Committee said, they could approve it on the condition that it was going to be 100 feet. And so I was surprised to see that the application before us doesn't have all of those updates in it. I still see pilings. In the drawing that we have, there are pilings that are attaching the float
No, there's no pilings, and the 106 feet is measured all the way from up on the land. The limitation of 100 feet is from mean high water, and we're only 86 feet from mean high water. So we're
In
well
low water,
below.
I think is what you
No,
said.
mean high water.
In the letter, so that is a question, because in the letter that you wrote, it said mean low water. So I don't understand some of the terms.
So the ordinance says that you can't be more than 100 feet beyond mean high water.
Beyond the harbor
or-
line.
Right, which is the harbor line, and the definition of harbor line is mean high water.
Right.
Or to mean low water, whichever is less. And we're well below low water, and we're only 86 feet beyond mean high water.
Right.
And there's no pilings. The float is anchored with moorings.
But do you know which part I'm referring to, where the harbor committee said, I mean, it's in there.
Yep, the harbor committee, we had pilings that were supporting the float, and those got removed. And they weren't part of the DEP application, the Army Corps application, or the planning board.
So the mooring rocks are existing mooring rocks?
Nope, those are proposed.
For the float?
There's no issue with moorings. It was piles. We had 2 piles at the
At the float
at the
end?
edge of the float where the gangway attached to the float that were put there to help support the floats, which is a common practice, but
The float would ride up the pilings.
would ride up the
with
pilings,
tide.
right.
Right, and
But in discussions with the harbor committee, we realized that the ordinance was pretty particular about those
Yeah.
pilings, and we eliminated them.
so you're putting, what are the mooring rocks going to do?
Those are going to anchor the floats.
Those
I
are,
mean, there's the square footage of impact here is, I would say this is the longest pier that we would have in the harbor.
Not even close.
Which one is,
Well, there's a bunch of them that do go the 100 feet.
so when you say not even close?
So actually,
There are more?
the Brace Pier is really close to this. I think that I forget their name, just on the other side of Erie Ave.
Remmer.
That pier is considerably longer,
Remmer, I think Cheryl Remmer probably. but,
maybe. And then the pier that was the most recent one on Dillingham Point is a little longer than this also.
How could it be if it's not allowed to be longer?
No, it is.
It
This
is-
is shorter
it is allowed to be
than
longer.
it's allowed to be. This could have been another 14 feet long.
You're saying it's only 86 feet from the harbor line?
Yes. It's only 86 feet from the harbor line, and mean low water is out beyond the end of this. We could have taken it to the end of, which,
right,
right.
right.
So we could have gone further,
Well, I guess,
but we didn't.
All of this is subject to approval. I mean, I've watched the harbor committee turn down pier applications for my entire life, and they do it for many reasons that are related to the criteria. So it's not a given that this can happen. I appreciate that it's a given that it can be considered, but the moorings, the loss of mooring space, to me, to take something away from the public domain and say, this is going to be for private use forever, instead, shouldn't be done lightly.
Well, I mean, I think if you listened closely, Steve Pixley said there's never going to be moorings in this location, and regardless of sea
That's
level.
not what Steve
Yes,
said.
yeah, there's only 3 feet of water here at low water.
Well, then
And
where
it's
are they going to have
And it's all boulders.
Well, how in the world are they going to have their boat there?
They're not
then?
going to leave the boat there. There'll
Can't-
be a dinghy there, and then they'll have to go out to a mooring to get to their boat.
There's a mooring there currently that is going to be
No,
displaced.
I don't think, no, there isn't, absolutely not.
And I think that's part of it for me, is that I have listened to the whole discussion. I have read everything. And what I've heard is a lot of, and geez, Sophie, I can see is raising her hand.
Yeah,
What we've
got-
seen is a lot of, I think it's over here. It looks like maybe one mooring. It looks like this. It looks like that. And I think for such a massive proposal with large impact that stays forever, that we have to do better in terms of like, well, I'm not sure that this is this or this is that. And so I'm not saying that I'm necessarily going to get to the point of this where I'm going to vote no, but I do think we owe it to everybody to do go through a more rigorous process than we have in the past.
One second. I want to, first of all, I want to get Sophie in because she wants to talk for a second. But you also co-host me so I can bring other people in somehow. Like I'm eliminated for that. Because I was going to bring Jeremy in too. But Sophie, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. I think there are two issues here. We have an application process that has been, in my opinion, thoroughly followed by the applicants. And the planning board has reviewed it. The harbor committee has reviewed it. I was not on the harbor committee when they reviewed it. And it seems to me that the applicants have gone through an extensive process and they followed every guideline in the ordinance. And I think it's important that when people apply for permits with the town and they follow the process, that they can reasonably expect to get the outcome for which they've been applying. So that's one thing. The second thing, Alison, is if you want to review the process and change it, that's in the future. And it would be unfair, in my opinion, to change the rules now when the application has been so thoroughly processed, checked, inquired about. I think there's an issue of fairness here for the people who are applying for this permit that we need to respect. And the last point I want to share is in an unexpected move, in my opinion, from citizens of Camden, their neighbors are coming in support of their building this dock because they think it's going to add value to Camden. So usually neighbors could be not in my backyard, and in the precise case of this project, they are supporting it. So I think, as Mark said earlier, on the legal side, it's pretty much 100% in the sense that they've gone through the whole process. They've garnered the support of their neighbors to build the dock. So I think we have to be reasonable on our end and say, if moving forward we want to change the process, that's one thing. But I don't feel it would be fair to change the process at this stage. I'm done for now.
Thank you, Sophie. Mark, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say, Allison, I'm 100% in agreement that I think that government, public, whatever, has given away rights that they shouldn't have given away. That we've, lost our shoreline all over the country, and it's a shame, and it's hard. The problem I have is what Sophie said is I don't like seeing all the piers show up in the harbor. I like seeing a free harbor, but they followed the rules, and I can't be subjective about the rules. What we can do in the future is change the rules and get the public to vote on it, because they're the ones that, have had to make the decisions to make these rules. I don't know how to use a subjective opinion of mine to change something that's gone by the way to it, even though I would prefer to see less piers in the harbor.
Allison.
I am not suggesting that we change the process. I am suggesting that we are part of the process. That is what this is not going to be a yes or no vote simply from us. We have to go through criteria, and we have to vote and document that we as a board agree that this does not interfere with or pose a hazard to the navigational channels between the inner harbor and the bay, and from the public vessel ramp to the main channel. Now, if there happened to be a public vessel ramp on Harbor Road, which I believe there should be, then it would be easy to say that it could pose or a Marine Ave, for instance. If there were a public vessel ramp there, then it could pose an issue. On that criteria, I would have to say, probably can't make an argument that it violates that right now. Interfere with, or eliminate or interfere with existing and designated mooring and anchorage areas and access thereto. So under that criteria, I will vote no, that the project will interfere with that, because we've already heard that there is a high likelihood that will displace one existing mooring that generates revenue for the town every single year, that is allocated to an individual who has just as much right to shared communal resources like the ocean as a private property owner. there's a very good argument to be made for the fact that it will be an higher in demand anchorage area in the future. C, reduce or interfere with existing shellfishing and clamming areas and access there too. Shellfishing is at the moment closed because of water quality issues, but that's, there might be an argument there that would be difficult to make, but still, that has been a major thing that has happened with private property owners trying to block access there, interfere with public vessel or launching facilities, block or interfere with public rights of passage and uses of the shores and flats would be probably my principal concern. That I think what I've heard is these people are really great and community oriented, and maybe they would be willing to do something that could appease that. But what I've seen before is private property owners trying to put signage on every time they have structures. They like to put signs on them that say private property and make an argument that no, the public isn't allowed to pass through here. And I know there have been all kinds of arguments about rights to the intertidal zone and all of that, but the public does have a right to cross through the intertidal zone if they are needing to get to their mooring, or if they're fishing, and in most cases, private property owners just allow the public to use the beach. So if there could be some kind of an assurance that they don't ever intend to use the pier as a way of blocking public access, I think that would be possibly a way of working around that. And then the other thing is the adversely affect small recreational boating activities. This is a big one for me and a lot of the people that I talk to, because I understand that some kayakers are unaffected by piers because they go straight out to Curtis Island or they go one way or the other. But a lot of people on paddle boards and kayaks like to stay closer to the shore because it's safer and it's more enjoyable, and it's, you can see things, you can fish. So what's happened to me several times, starting at Steamboat Landing with my kayak and my paddleboard and my kids, we go out to Sherman's Cove and it's all quiet and nice, and then the storm starts to pick up, or the wind picks up, and it can be really rocky back there. And when you're trying to get back to Steamboat Landing and you have to go out into the middle of the channel with power boats zipping by, and it's actually scary, and it takes a lot longer to do that. So if the piers were higher, and I understand that our ordinance prohibits that, but if the piers were higher, a lot of that could be eliminated. It will also eliminate some of the safety issues associated with overtopping piers. But those are,
Okay.
there's actual criteria that we have to think about. It's not just the planning board recommended it, and so we do too. The planning board wasn't even supposed to look. If we want to talk about following the process, I don't understand who in this town didn't understand. The ordinance is crystal clear. The harbor committee reviews, makes recommendations to the select board. Then the select board goes through this process. Only then does it go to the planning board for site plan review. Now, if we want to talk about following the process, why isn't that being followed?
Jeremy, you want to just comment on the process at all?
All right, let's bring Jeremy in.
He's there.
Oh, yes. Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here. The ordinance is actually very, it doesn't lay it out precisely on which one comes first. And the applicant's consultant, Will, and I had conversations about this multiple times. It is not crystal clear. It does need both approvals. I would add, I think it is important, and I think what Allison's trying to get to is that it's important to use the review criteria and go through them. And that's how you review these projects. That's how planning board projects are reviewed. It's the board has to make that decision based on the standards. And Will, I think, has laid out the ordinance pretty clearly for you. But the ordinance is not as crystal clear as Allison is suggesting. And I think it should be clearer. But it does require all three reviews. So I'll just leave it at that, I guess. It is not crystal clear, and the ordinances could be far clearer. And that is something that we should probably look at and refine. To the point, I'm not sure it's pertinent so much because there are criteria that the planning board reviews that you don't use under your review. The review criteria that you use is the same criteria that the harbor committee uses. and that the planning board uses in their review. And I think if you looked at both of those reviews, I think both reviews were a 4-to-1 vote at the Harbor Committee level and at the planning board level. I believe it was 4-to-1, and 4 in favor and 1 opposed. And the 1 opposed, I think, was the same, review criteria in that it substantially adversely affected small recreational boating activities to a substantial degree. And I think that's, I think if you stick to those standards, then I think the review process for you can be clearer and much more focused on what the standards that you have to review it under. I don't think you have the ability to pull other factors and other issues into this. The ordinance is clear that says these are the standards you review.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Does that make sense?
That's exactly what I'm advocating for, but I'm just trying to pull up the language because I found it to, what the planning board does is site plan review. And so what we have in front of us is something that is not construction drawings. It says not to be used for construction purposes. It's not, the reason that it would go from Harbor Committee to Select Board to Planning Board is because Planning Board they get into the nitty-gritty of the site plan, and the Select Board and the Harbor Committee are still a little bit more on the conceptual level. So it did say it very clearly.
To clarify, I will say, Allison is right to a point, but all the standards that you review, the ordinances, if you follow them, you have to follow the site plan section, the shoreland zoning ordinance provisions, and the harbor provisions. If you're in, I believe it's in the shoreland zoning provisions, it references the Harbor Committee review standards, which are the standards that are in front of you. So,
Right.
yes, the planning board does get into more detail about certain things, but they still address the same standards that you are addressing and the Harbor Committee addressed.
Jeremy, have previous processes that regarding, and Will, you could answer this question also, regarding piers like this follow the same process?
I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't understand that one.
Years.
I was going to say, my question was, and believe me, I know there's confusion in a lot of our processes in this town, and they do need clarification. This is just one of many. But my question was, in previous peer applications, and I'm not sure, Jeremy, you've been around long enough to do any, so that's why I said, Will, you could answer the question. Has this same process been held for prior applicants for peers?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not sure it matters, though. I mean, you've got to have all three, and I don't know is one is dependent on the other necessarily.
Well, I agree. I agree. I guess the issue is, I certainly think there's lots of stuff in this. I'm not a real big advocate of filling up, our harbor, our coves with piers, but on the other hand, as Sophie and Mark have alluded to, I think if they've gone through the process with, as has been done in the past, they've seemed to have taken care of all the criterion that was requested. I'm not sure of any one, Will, you can correct me, but any one criterion which they've failed to pass in the muster with the planning board or with the harbor committee, then, but I do believe strongly, I would agree with Alice, there's lots of elements in here that are looking forward that we need to correct, get better before it gets any further out of hand, because yes, it does impact the public. We should be conscious of public use, absolutely. And I think this process could be made stronger in that regard. But I don't still
You can approve it with conditions also, so.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think.
Absolutely. What conditions are you recommending?
That the applicants would agree not to use the pier as a means of blocking public passage in the intertidal zone.
You mean somebody can't go on, are you talking about people going on their pier?
No, they don't have to let people on their pier.
That's what to be clear.
Although, there are all kinds of things, partnerships we could propose, but that might solve everything. The Harbor Road, Rixon, shared pier. Just kidding. In case you're listening.
To your point.
So that they would agree not to, so what we've seen before is private property owners trying to get into skirmishes with the public. So say if somebody wants to fish, go down Harbor Road, go down that access point and fish from the shore, and then they're going to walk to Marine Ave, and, go underneath these people's pier, just walking along the beach like people do, will they agree not to make an argument that people don't have the right to do that, or to post signage on their pier saying that it's, people can't pass underneath it?
I don't believe that can be limited anyway. I believe they can keep people off the pier because the insurance element goes on.
Most people choose not to, but.
People definitely have a right to fish, foul, and
Absolutely,
navigate.
absolutely.
I mean,
Nobody owns the shore.
Well, I'm not going to get into it,
Yeah,
but
it is a complicated issue.
I'm not looking to make the legal argument for somebody to keep people out of the shoreline, but it wouldn't be the first time that it had happened. And sometimes the power of suggestion is stronger than, so just because somebody doesn't have the legal right, somebody also doesn't have the legal right to build a fence in the public right-of-way on Sherman's Point Road, but they do it anyway. And then the town doesn't have a chance to do. So if they would agree not to post any kind of signage like that, that would make me feel better.
Right.
The lighting is another thing that I think that if the Department of Marine Resources were to be instructed to look at that more critically, I understand that these people are willing to be very cautious with it, but this, if you go out in Sherman's Cove now, it's amazing. It's dark. You can see the stars. It's a very different experience than the Inner Harbor, and there are no lighted piers in Sherman's Cove. And so,
Actually, these exact same lights are on the Brace Pier, which is right next door. And they've been there since.
We can.
They're very small. They're about 3 inches.
We're getting off the whole process for approval here.
Right.
Bill, do you want to make any comment?
Well, I was just going to try to focus you guys a little bit and reinforce what Jeremy has said, because there is a process here, and it is pretty clear. And the review criteria are written down, and that's what was adopted by the voters. So what could happen in a situation where there wasn't a select board member who had factual concerns as to whether or not the facts supported each of these criteria, and Allison's just mentioned a couple where she doesn't think the facts support the approval here. That is addressed by, a motion. If there was no objection, what would typically happen is you would say, based on the information in the record, we find that all the criteria are moved, all the criteria have been met, and I move for approval of the permit under this section of the harbor ordinance. And there might be a vote, and then you're done.
Right.
But when you have particular objections to a particular section, what you should do is not try to convince Will of whatever your thoughts are. But you should.
Let him finish. Let him finish, please. Let him finish, please.
What you should do is make a motion on the criteria that you think are not being met, and explain based on the record, what's in the record, not what you think, but what's in the record, as to why the facts don't support that criteria being met. And if your motion, if you convince the other folks of that, then that criteria will be found to have not been met. But you need to sort of
what about the approval with conditions? At which point would it be appropriate to say that this like what the Harbor Committee did in some cases, was to say, well, if this is done, then this condition will be met? So I guess that's where I'm trying to introduce the public rights of passage and things like that. If, this condition were agreed to, then
I think what
the
Bill is,
criteria would be met.
you get your question. I understand you. That's a good question. But I think what Bill is saying is we're limited to what the questions and the criterion that are in the current process.
I'm referring to them.
So the language says the select board shall review the project for compliance with the applicable provisions of the ordinance. So unlike other ordinances that say something to the effect of you can approve with conditions, or deny, that express language is not here. That's language we frequently see in other ordinances. So the question that you're raising is,
This one is, it's somewhere else.
okay, and if I'm actually looking at Will's application instead of the whole ordinance, so if it's in there, because he's cited these. But I think that's just a motion. If part of what your argument is that when the select board reviews the project for compliance with the applicable provisions, that if the board were to vote that a criteria had not been met, but would be met if the following condition was followed, then I think you can probably do that. But you still have to get to the particular criteria, make a motion, explain the facts in the record as to why you think you should win your motion, and then let everybody vote.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some of the things Allison's mentioned. One second.
Jeremy has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeremy, 1 second. The criterion that's listed, it has to be referred to, when I'm hearing you, we're referring to the matters on record, not our opinions.
Right, you had a public hearing,
Right.
you have submissions.
Right.
We go to public hearings all the time when there could have been 7 people who testified.
Oh, sure.
There could have been 3 experts
Yep.
who said, here's why that section of the ordinance has not been met. You don't have that as a record. You have an application, and you have whatever has been submitted. That's your record.
Period.
So that's what you're voting on.
Jeremy, you had your hand up for an hour.
Yeah, and I'm just going to refer back to the ordinance, which this is what Bill and I do. Section 6 is procedure for the permit. Section C, and this is of the harbor ordinance, this is section C, talks about the code officer. Section D, and I'll just read it. Upon receipt of the review and comments of the harbor committee, the select board, after public hearing, shall either approve with conditions, or disapprove the proposed project in accordance with the standards of Article 7, Section 6. So you can go down through that process, and I just want to clarify, and this is for 2, this is the F2 outer harbor. You have to find, and this is what Bill was trying to get to, and I think it's important to remember what words mean. A is interfere or pose a hazard to navigational channels between the inner harbor and the bay from the public vessel ramp to the main channel. Substantially eliminate or interfere with existing and designated mooring and anchorage areas. So it's not just eliminate, it says substantially eliminate. And then C is substantially reduce or interfere with existing shell fishing and clamming areas. D is interfere with public vessel launching. And then E is substantially block or interfere with public rights of passage and uses of the shore and flats. So when you're having this conversation about public access, it does say substantially block. And then F talks about adversely affecting small recreational boating activities to a substantial degree. So I think it's important just that's your review criteria. Those are the items that you're reviewing. You could look to the harbor committee and the planning board review for guidance. You can look to the application, what Will submitted, which is generally exactly what was submitted to the harbor committee and the planning board. The harbor committee changes that were proposed with conditions were more structural things, as I recall. More, they had some, Will could probably speak to it, some timbers that were up in the air, and this helped remove the float at certain time of the year. That exceeded a height limit. Even though it showed on the plan, the board said we can't approve it like this, so subject to amending your plans to show that that's not there. That was an example. So I'm just pointing that out. That's the direction of this. There's really A through F of that section of the harbor ordinance is the best way to go. And in the planning board's process, we go right through each one of these, and someone makes a motion, does it meet this standard? And then you have that vote, and you have that discussion about each one of those standards. I think that would help.
Just to point out, I'm not confused about the process. I literally read every single one of those and pointed out that I understand that that's the criteria. I've read everything. I'm not off base here.
I'm trying to clarify for the process.
We need to proceed
move forward.
We need to proceed to make a decision here, folks. We can go back and forth on this till I get the frustration. I share some of it, but on the other hand, we have the criteria, and you need a motion to accept all the items. We can do a conditional if you so suggest, or perhaps even a subtle approval with a request to do something too. They can always, as if the participants want to proceed with Yeah, we don't want to eliminate anybody from walking along, blah, 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 but we need to move forward with
I
the
mean, if they
motion.
won't say that, that would be a really big red flag. I mean, sometimes we could just do something that's good for the public to
Well,
just make
I
sure
think these,
that.
I'm sure these people are upstanding citizens, and I think it's as simple as a motion saying we approve, but we would respectfully request they do not do anything intentionally to restrict.
But it's the people that come afterwards. It's if you could get the approval criteria, if the approval to actually include a condition like this, then that would protect the public forever, rather than just relying on.
Now, that's conditional. That can be made conditional. Mark?
My question is the law already guarantee that people have that access, and that what you're saying is people sometimes put out fake signs and do
Yep,
all that, but
they
the
do.
law already guarantees that right?
No, unfortunately, it doesn't. It's a really sad state of affairs, and it's very difficult to prove that somebody isn't fishing. But that is what the intertype. I hate even saying this in a public meeting, but the private property owner owns to the mean low water mark. That's the way it is in Maine, unless specified otherwise. And so you see all over Maine places where the public has been prohibited from accessing the beach. It happens, and it doesn't happen that much, but it is a very real danger. And most people believe that all the beaches are public, and so a lot of the time they don't even push for that. But it's very scary to me that a private property owner would try to take that. We did lose some access to the intertidal zone over on Sherman's Point Road. That's a complicated situation over there, but the history here has not been positive for the public.
What's the law say? That's what I'm curious about.
You mean
What's your question? I'm not really
Does
sure.
the law guarantee the public access there that you're just trying to guarantee that they acknowledge? Is that what you're saying? Or are we changing the rules of what they access?
I can answer the question if you like.
Yes.
What the law says is that between high and low water, that area is called many things, but we'll call it the intertidal area.
Right.
It's subject to what's called the public trust doctrine, and that doctrine has been around for about 350 years. It was inherited from England. It was an edict from England, actually. And it basically says that the public has rights to all intertidal areas up to 100 rods, so out 1,650 feet. After that, there are no public rights anymore. But let's say in this instance, the intertidal area is not 1,600 feet long. There's absolutely, this public trust applies. There are public rights of passage, which are referenced here. They're sort of the same things. They're said twice, where the criteria that says substantially block or interfere with public rights of passage and uses of the shores and flats. It's all this is all the same public trust I'm talking about. And this has been the subject of a tremendous amount of legal analysis in the state of Maine. And the law court has repeatedly said that there is no general recreational right in this area. That's what people have been relying on for the last 350 years, and so far that remains that way. But there are certain things that the public does have the right to do. And as it's the fishing, fouling, and navigation phrase. And the navigation has taken some interesting turns, including a fellow who was walking out with flippers on and an oxygen tank, who was allowed to navigate out to shore because he demonstrated he was really navigating. So
That's like me on Daily Brook with my kayak.
So to Allison's question of, how do you prove whether you're fishing or not? Well, those are factual questions that's just the way it is. The rights are limited to the fishing, fouling, and navigation. Those rights tend to get expanded of what constitutes those things over time. And I could go on and on. People don't understand that even every great pond of 10 acres or more, even if it's surrounded completely by private property, is still subject to public access rights to get to that pond.
Yep.
You just can't go through somebody's curtilage, their improved yard. It gets complicated and weedy, But the answer to the question is yes, with this pier or any pier that goes up, it does not eliminate the public right to fish, fowl, and navigate in the intertidal area.
Right.
Your criteria is that right being substantially interfered with? That's the question you have. The rights don't go away. They're not changing here in any way.
But, and so I guess that's what I'm hoping to establish an agreement that they will not, I don't want to see the town of Camden in a legal battle about whether the man with the oxygen tank and his flippers had the right to pass under the Rixon Pier. And so a statement from them saying that they will not post signage or in any way attempt to limit that would be a really wonderful just sign of goodwill, because it'll take the public a little while to figure out, well, this guy yelled at me when I was walking out on Sherman's Cove. And it would be nice if we could get that
I think
from them,
that's
but we could just argue with the next property owner in
Well,
court.
I was going to say that unfortunately, these things don't follow the letter of the law, and this couple could agree, but they could still go out there and yell at somebody for doing something that we're not thinking of right here. I think we have to trust that they're going to follow what Bill said in terms of the allowing the public access to the intertidal area.
Well, I think you guys have certain things you can and can't do right now. We don't have the owners here, and this really is not a negotiation session.
Right.
Make your motion and say what you want the condition to be, and then.
Sometimes they say, I'm sure that they would be amenable to that. I saw John Rixon on the Zoom, and I just thought maybe somebody would chime in and say, of course. But I understand that I'm not going to, sometimes a conversation can lead to something positive. I understand that nobody is going to give away any, we do have an attendee.
I think the Rixons have heard us over this Zoom call, but I think we do need to move to a motion either to accept or accept with condition. Does somebody want to make a motion?
Do you want to make a motion, Allison? Because you've got the handle on it. Because I'll make a motion that we accept the application by John Rixon and Mary Keller to construct a residential pier and seasonal gangway and float at 26 Harbor Road, Camden, Maine. I don't know what else to put. I don't know what specific.
Well, you didn't condition it. You're not conditioning it to anything. That's fine, but that's.
We are required to go through, I believe from the ordinance that we are still required to go through all of the criteria. It says that it's supposed to be in writing, and that I don't think we have the option of just
yeah, you can. You can say that we are approving all of that there's the 6 or 7, that there's no, that they're accepted, there's no interference. You can do that. You don't have to vote on every one, if that's the motion.
You can approve first and make your findings of fact second.
Right.
And the findings of fact could be something along the lines of, we find that the criteria have been met, each of the criteria have been met based on the submission in the application packet and the facts alleged there.
Exactly.
So it's not a complicated motion. But I agree with Allison that there would be a comprehensive motion to say that all the criteria have been met, if that's what you wish to do. But it's not infrequent that the motion is done first to approve, and then the facts are explained in a second motion.
You can do it either way, Mark. Basically, we need to address.
But I'm interested in Allison speaking, and motioning about what she's trying to accomplish here. And you can articulate that better than I can.
Before you get there, just so I have my notes, is there a second to Mark's motion?
Is there a second to Mark's motion? I'll second it for the purpose of a vote.
Second, I second.
Sophie second, yes.
Could I ask a couple more questions?
We have discussion in a minute, yeah. Discussion now.
Do we have a plan for the relocation of this mooring? Does everybody in Camden, do we all realize that people wait for years in Camden for a mooring? Years and years and years to get a mooring in Camden.
But that's not what we're discussing tonight.
It is absolutely what we're discussing.
Can I just comment on the mooring?
Yes, please.
So I've talked with Steve. The first thing I do when I look at one of these pier projects is make sure that it doesn't interfere with the mooring. And I don't believe that it's going to, and I actually think that Steve thinks there might be a chance that it does. The interference would be in the length of the boat and the amount of swing that it might have, and whether or not that swing is potentially going to interfere with boats coming and going from this float. So if that was the case, it might need to be moved or adjusted slightly in order to eliminate that. But otherwise, there are no moorings that are close to this at all, because again, there's only 3 feet of water, and this is a very
Your boat
bouldery
can't, your boat
shoreline.
can't swing into 3 feet of water.
If we could submit something that actually showed in carefully, so Steve has his hand up and he's coming in, but it's not, you can't, we should be able to answer these questions definitively. And one of the problems with approving this, I
So
think.
first and foremost, I'm going to stop, right now, stop. We have a motion and a second to accept the application. Is there a discussion on that? Then we'll get to the criteria as a second motion. Okay, one at a time. So is there any more discussion on this motion? All those in favor here? Sophie?
Aye.
3. Against?
Approving it with
Against?
conditions, without conditions?
We're not, we're approving, we're going to,
Voting on the motion.
What was the motion? To approve it without conditions, or?
no, when motion was made to approve the application, the second motion we'll get to will be the conditions. That's what Bill just said.
I don't understand how we can approve the application without going through the, how, are we?
Say it again. You can, it is not infrequently done that you can make a motion to approve an application and then have
Approved.
factual findings afterwards to support that approval.
I
You can
can't-
do it either way.
I can't know if I can approve the overall thing until we go through
So
the
you can
conditions.
vote no.
Yep. Well, no.
But Mark had, I think Mark's intention, what he said, was to be able to offer the criteria, and now he's,
Well, I said I would offer that motion, but it's still want you to articulate somewhere as we go through the criteria, watch the planning board go through it. And that would,
if you vote yes, then we lose that opportunity right now.
no, because
No. We can still vote. There's a second motion on the criterion. It's accepting the criterion or rejecting the criterion. Correct, Bill?
No, the second motion would be
Findings.
findings of fact,
Right,
where
findings.
you could include,
Findings of fact that are in our packet, that the information we know of.
The approval or disapproval is based on the findings of fact. It really can't be the other way around.
I would suggest you move forward on the motion.
We did.
What would be the implications of 3 people voting yes, that we would go through?
then we make a second motion to go through the limitations or the findings of fact. That there's plenty, same ones the planning board went through, correct?
You have the criteria before you. It's in the packet.
Number one, the length of the
Will has
pier should-
outlined them, but
It's under the select board
Conditions, though,
section.
Shouldn't that be part of the approval?
I think they have the right to do that.
You can do it either way, Wills. This is more awkward, frankly.
Well, would you mind if I just shared an aerial photograph
Yeah,
that shows all the moorings?
Yeah. Steve, while he's showing them, do you have a comment to make so we can get past this about the moorings?
Well, this wasn't in our, this is exactly the kind of thing.
I'm going to have
Rather than me, like, going back and forth.
one meeting at a time, please. Steve, do you have?
Yeah. Well, I think it will be.
All right, let's take a deep breath.
Steve, you're breaking up badly. You need to get a high-speed internet.
Well,
Steve, turn your video off. Video off.
Never.
All right. Steve, it's not working.
Want to call me? I can.
my video.
We're going to, it's 10 minutes of 8. We're going to move forward to discussing a motion to accept the criterion per the select board portion of this, which 7 of them are not. Okay, so we need to now make a motion to accept the what did you call it, Audra? What was the term?
findings of fact.
Findings of fact on those criteria.
Okay, just
findings of
to
fact. You
be
don't
clear,
accept-
you make your own findings of fact. You don't have to base yours on what the planning board or the harbor committee has done.
Right. Findings of fact is key words, though.
I don't know that we have a final vote on the first motion.
Well,
Everybody understood what they were voting on in the first
No,
motion.
we understood.
that's 3 votes and you didn't vote. Did you vote no or yes? On
I
the first one.
was still discussing. I voted no.
Okay.
I guess I voted no.
That's 3-1. Now let's go to a motion to.
I'll make a motion that we now go through the findings of fact.
Oh, Steve is delivering a message.
Here's a-
Well,
Moving
this
issue.
is the level of process
No
that
mooring.
is just totally unacceptable, because we have something in the packet that says only one mooring is going to be displaced. And then we have somebody holding up a sticky note in a meeting saying no mooring issue.
Well-
If this is the way we're going to make decisions, I
Well,
mean,
you're the one that likes Zoom. I don't care for it, but
I-
let's move forward on,
Steve, could you come on down to the,
let's move, no, let's move forward on the findings of fact.
there's a letter, Steve Pixley's letter in your packet.
The Pixley letter says one more will be displaced.
Yes, as would be part of the record. I don't know if the sticky note now becomes the record rather than the letter, but
Oh, you're talking, okay, so just for clarity, there's an email.
your microphone is turned off.
Because we have to look at the record, and the record, the reference is a letter from Jeremy to, from Pixley, Steve Pixley to Jeremy Martin. And it says, after looking at the proposed pier location from Gartley and Dorsky, it looks like only one mooring may have to be moved.
May.
I will contact the mooring holder and inform them of this.
It may have to be
Possible.
moved, not eliminated. That's different.
Well, where are we going to, there is so much demand for moorings, where are we going to move it?
don't-
These
all you-
questions
no.
are questions that could be
Steve
answered.
shuffles moorings all the time.
Yeah, we do. I shuffled my mooring 5 feet because it was getting in the way of another swing. It's done all the time. That's what they're talking
There's
about
only
here.
so much mooring
Well,
shuffling that
then,
can
all
be
you need to
done.
do, Allison, is to approve the criterion with the condition that no moorings are affected and need to be relocated, substantially relocated.
What is
Because- Well, it means they may have to move it 5 or 10 feet. That happens all the time. That's just it's
I know,
because
but
this.
more people
because
want
this-
moorings all the time. This is like
We're not,
public-
it's, they didn't.
eliminating
Allison,
space
he
for
didn't
moorings.
say
Okay,
eliminate the
just-
mirror, and may move it. He didn't say eliminate it. This is done all the time in the harbor. Steve will tell you that. They moved my mooring 6 or 8 feet because it was the swing of the boat.
Moorings will never go here. They just
No,
they
it's
just
too
can't.
shallow.
It's too
I wouldn't put
shallow.
my boat there.
And there's a lot of boulders there.
There is one there that's going to have to be moved.
May have to
No,
be
it's
moved.
further out, and it's
It
because
would
of the
just be
swing.
so helpful to have things like this
Well,
in
it's
the
there.
packet. I
Then,
mean,
Allison, all you have to do is qualify the facts, findings of fact to that.
well, no, I mean, I'm
clarification.
still going to vote no, because I believe that is valuable space to the community that is going to be lost forever. I think it's a total impact of 800 and something square feet. I understand that it's reasonable for people to disagree with me here. I just want to,
I get it.
I want to make the argument that's on, for the
And-
public
and-
interest,
and
and you
that's-
don't
and that-
have to agree with me.
No, that's very, very appropriate. What we're trying to do, is there any condition that you would recommend we put on the acceptance of the facts, of finding of facts?
That no mooring be displaced or substantially moved.
Okay, then why don't you make
But
the,
there is no substantially, that is the essence of what we're doing here, is defining what we believe to be substantial or not substantial. So, to me, all of this is substantial. So if, as long as the total number of moorings that the harbor can have in this area is not
then you can
reduced.
make a motion that says absolutely no moorings affected, not moved on anything, and the board can vote on that or not.
Can you pass me the photo, please?
The what?
The photo.
Oh, sure. Sure. So that's where
Also,
we're,
Jeremy wants to say something, I think.
Jeremy?
Yeah, and I just think it's important again to just look at what the ordinance says. It says for this, when you're talking about moorings, it specifically says substantially eliminate or interfere with existing and designated mooring and anchorage areas and access thereto. That's what it says. It doesn't talk about one mooring. It says mooring and anchorage areas substantially eliminate or interfere.
Right.
And it's
This
just
is a
important to,
designated area, anchorage area, mooring area. So whether they are low-quality mooring
You can
spaces.
just, Allison, just qualify to say the mooring's not relocated, because moving a mooring 5 or 7 feet or 10 feet is not relocating a mooring. It's adjusting it. By the way, the tide does that sometimes.
One would not be substantial.
Yep. So is that the only one you want to qualify?
No, I'd like to qualify that interfere with the rights of public passage to the shores and flats by,
Then condition it so that they don't do anything that interferes with the current law that Bill just mentioned.
I don't want them out there interviewing people to see if they're really fishing or not, or putting signage that says
Allison,
no
we can
trespassing.
either make them obey the law.
No,
if
we
it's
can put conditions that,
All right.
that say,
we
as long as they agree not to post signage
we-
preventing the
Okay,
passage.
then make your motion.
I would move that we approve that
Findings of
criteria
fact.
has been,
Findings of fact.
well, no, it's a specific finding
Okay.
of fact.
Okay.
That is met under the condition that the property owners agree not to post signage preventing or discouraging the passage of, I'm coming up with this.
Public access.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one. What's the other one? Moorings.
Oh, the moorings,
Not to relocate moorings.
Any
relocate
substantial, you
moorings.
said any substantial movement of moorings.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay.
I think we should go through the criteria though and vote on them individually, but.
Well,
Because I do believe that it poses a navigational threat to paddlers, and so I'm going to vote no on
that's
that.
fine. That's fine. But you're allowed certainly to do that.
Let's go through them then. Let's go through them. Okay, Harbor Ordinance, Article
Page
6,
54.
Section 7, Procedure for Permit. Any construction, renovation, or improvement of a mobile vessel hoist, pier, wharf, bulkhead, breakwater, marine, railway, or other structure shall require an application to the code enforcement officer of the town of Camden. Written application shall include the following
Here, we can
information.
actually go through on here and say, so I could move that, that item A, I move that we find that the proposed project does not interfere with or pose a hazard to the navigational channels between the inner harbor and the bay and from the public vessel ramp to the main channel. And if we were required to refer to something in the record, it would be the plans that have been submitted show that it doesn't, the proposed pier doesn't block access to the main channel. So I would move that,
That what?
that's what I just said, that
I
item A.
second this motion.
Okay.
I second this motion.
Motion made in second discussion. All's in favor? Here. Sophie?
Aye.
Okay, next.
This one, see, I can't do it because I would move that the item B is that the project does not meet the criteria of not eliminating or interfering with existing and designated mooring and anchorage areas and access there too.
Why don't I make that motion? I'll make the motion that the proposed project will not be eliminate or interfere with existing and designated mooring and anchorage areas and access thereto.
You could add under the condition that no moorings be moved or.
So I seconded Mark's motion.
Correct. Motion made in second discussion. All's in favor? Here. Sophie?
No.
No.
So it doesn't move.
Okay.
I don't think Sophie understood the motion because it was
The
stated.
motion was that it does not eliminate or interfere. Right?
Will not eliminate.
So then it would be a yes then.
Jeremy, wait a minute. Let's make sure we get the motion clear, Sophie. What was the exact wording?
I read it as the proposed project will not eliminate or interfere with existing and designated mooring and anchorage areas and access thereto. Now the question is that it may interfere with one. So let me change the motion. The proposed project will not substantially eliminate or interfere with existing or designated mooring and anchorage areas and access thereto.
Okay, I agree.
You second?
Yes,
You second that motion?
I second that motion.
Right, discussion? All's in favor here? Sophie?
Aye.
Allison?
No.
Thank you for the
All right,
clarification.
next one. Yeah, that's okay. I thought you got confused there.
Proposed project will not C, reduce or interfere with existing shell fishing and clamming areas and access thereto. And we request that the owners are not allowed to have any signage that would indicate otherwise.
Any second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, I have an issue with imposing conditions.
It's not clear enough in my mind. That's why I think the idea is great, but it's not clear enough.
You want to clarify it? You want to-
Don't put up signs that say no trespassing or private property or any of that.
It doesn't, that's, to me,
This is a huge problem if they want to do that, guys. I mean, you realize that if these people are like, we definitely want our private property and no trespassing signs posted on our pier, that's really problematic. So,
But it has nothing to do, it has nothing to do with the application process or with the criteria. It's imposing conditions, imposing conditions that they were not aware of. I believe that the course of action is to request and work with them in a partnership, but not impose conditions that are not in the application process. That's my issue.
right. Because some of the incidents you mentioned, Allison, have occurred, and they have occurred, are people that know, should know, and they've still put up signs. They didn't care. They didn't want to work with us. They still don't.
because the town doesn't push back. The select board voted to spend up to $20,000 on, it's because we, in these kinds of cases, we say, well, we'll never be able to enforce it. And we just throw our hands up, and the private property owners do not throw their hands up. They fight for every little bit, and they wear the town down after a while.
Oh,
And we
sure,
give
sure,
in because we're like, yeah, whatever, it's just so,
Mark, I
we're
think
busy with other
the
stuff.
difference in the motion of discussion is whether or not we're requiring them to put up signs or just to
not put up signs.
to not put up signs, or just to cooperate with the town in this objective not to have signage preventing. That's the big difference in wording, in my opinion.
One of my problems with this is the law indicates that they can't keep people out. And
And
so,
if they prove they're not fishing.
we're sort of already backing up what the law already says.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that people fight the law, and then we have to go to court to them to say,
Right.
that's why I asked Bill, the law already
We kept off
guarantees
the beaches.
access.
People have been kept off of beaches in Maine. It's
But that's not the issue in front of us.
It's literally.
It is not the issue. No, it is not the issue in front of us. The issue in front of us is to approve an application and to do a findings of fact that the applications meet the criteria. If the town of Camden wants to protect public access to the beach, we have to do it through another channel. We have to do a different ordinance or something different. It's not, tonight is not the place where we can do this. And number two, these people have gone through extensive process and they've done everything to the T. So it seems to me that the likelihood they would like to cooperate with us on a voluntary basis instead of imposing a condition that they were not aware before starting this process will be counterproductive.
The difference.
It says in the ordinance that it can be approved with
There's a difference
conditions. They were aware that was a possibility.
There's a difference between request and require. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. How did I put, I say?
Well, I think you said they would not, and we would request they do not put up any restrictions for the public access.
So moved. So,
All right.
I second.
All right. All those in favor here? Sophie?
Aye.
Allison? No.
No.
All right. Next criterion.
the proposed project will not, D, interfere with public vessel launching and pier facilities.
Well, before you move on, you haven't had a motion to find that subsection C has been met. You had a motion to approve subsection C with a condition that failed, and you just made a motion to request that they put up a sign or something like that.
Change the motion.
But you haven't actually had a motion to say,
The proposed project C will will not reduce or interfere with
Right.
existing shell fishing and clamming or access thereto, and the town requests that, however you say it,
Not provided, just request that they not put up any signage.
Request that no signage
Regarding public, not eliminating public
otherwise
access.
is posted.
Second, Sophie?
I second, yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. All those in favor, here?
I,
Aye, Allison?
No.
Okay, next one, Mark.
Outer Harbor, the proposed project will not, D, interfere with public vessel launching and pier facilities.
I second.
Mark, make the motion.
I did.
Okay, motion made and seconded?
I just
I'm
second. Yeah.
confused. All those in favor here? To Sophie? Aye.
I,
Allison?
Public vessels.
Yeah.
I guess
Okay.
that's
Next.
not.
The proposed project will not, E, block or interfere with public rights of passage and uses of the shores and flats.
second.
What's the motion? You just read the criteria.
That one was reduce or interfere with existing shell fishing and clamming areas and access thereetoo, so.
That's what you just did.
No, so this one is E, block or interfere with
So
public
you're
rights.
making a motion to accept,
But what's the motion? Yeah.
to accept,
You just read it.
to approve it.
That the proposed project will not block or interfere with public rights of passage and uses of the shores and flats.
I think Bill's just saying you made a motion to that effect. Sophie, you second?
I second.
All's in favor here?
Aye.
Aye. So Allison?
No.
3-1. Next one.
And the last one, F, it says adversely affect small recreational boating activities. I would say substantially affect small recreational boating activities.
So
You guys ever been out there on a kayak?
what is your, make your motion?
It was a motion.
I make the motion that the proposed project will not substantially affect small recreational boating activities.
I second.
All those in favor? Sophie?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
No.
All right, 3-1. The criteria is approved.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Will. Sorry, but it's.
So wait, so the last thing is that the select board determines that the applicant does or does not meet the requirements, so we find that the applicant does
Correct.
meet the requirement.
Correct.
We did that
Right,
first.
there's an overall vote.
We did that up front.
It's an overall thing, so, but do we have to vote on this, or it's?
We did that already.
We did that already, okay, perfect.
All right.
I would just kindly request before signing this thing that my last name be spelled correctly.
Did you what?
Her last name is.
My last name be spelled correctly.
If you insist, I know the feeling.
Request or requirement?
I can throw a fit if you want.
Okay, onward. Thank you. On to our warrant article public hearing for the Camden zoning ordinance to amend Article 10, Part 2, Section 1, environmental soils, earth moving, and erosion control. Jeremy, you want to give us the basis for this?
Sure. We had a discussion item on this, I don't know, a month or so ago. In essence, what this would do would require anyone that is displacing soil, exposing soil in the town of Camden to implement erosion control measures consistent with the state's erosion and sedimentation control law. It is a requirement. We can't enforce that law in the state. We don't have a good erosion control ordinance in place. And this ordinance also would adopt or would reference the state's erosion and sedimentation control best management practice manuals for contractors and for engineers. That's what it does. You had some questions previously. You wanted an inspection component, and I added an inspection component that does require if someone is getting a permit, then they are required to have an inspection once that erosion controls are installed, and that's before the project commences after that. And there is a fee provision in here as well. I know we talked about it when we talked about fees. You wanted a fee for that, so I did add a little section that says there is a fee for that erosion control inspection. That's what it is. It's a good thing. We've been getting contractors and property owners to address erosion control voluntarily, and they've been listening, and which is very good. But it is important to protect water quality of the lake, the river, and the ocean to keep sediment and materials out of the water bodies. And this would apply to any erosion control if there's a chance that it's leaving the site, getting into a resource that resource is even a ditch or catch basin.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm going to ask if there's any public here, public comments. I don't see anybody from the public who wants to comment, so we'll revert to the select board decision and discussion. Does anybody in the select board have any questions or discussion on this proposed Camden zoning ordinance change?
How was the agriculture thing resolved? Is I did.
That is still in here. That is still in here, Allison. The planning board did have a hearing on it, and they wanted that in there, and they had some discussion, and they felt that that should stay in there. And so that's why that's still there.
Making sure to exempt agriculture from these requirements.
That's what it was before, right?
That's
Yes.
We did not have that language in our ordinance before exempting agriculture, and we will now. I agree with everything else that Jeremy's.
Do you think the agriculture shouldn't be exempted?
Right. I understand that there's some state stuff that protects agriculture. I just don't think that we need to add that to our ordinance, because what happens is somebody says, well, this pile of dirt is for my garden and it's going into the river, and I don't think we need.
But doesn't agriculture have a broader definition than that?
It's just nice
That's
not
fair.
to
I
get
mean,
into that.
we could pull it out. I will tell you, you can delete that section if you want. That's fine. What I would do in a situation where it was actually a farm, an operating farm that met the definition of farm operations under the Maine Agricultural Protection Act, I would reach out in this case I'd try to reach out to the property owner or the farmer. We don't have many of those. I'd reach out to them and say, hey, we got an issue. Can we work on that? Likely they would say, sure. If they didn't, I would do the state has to, DEP can't even enforce on farms. They would have to go to the Department of Agriculture.
Right.
And I would do the same thing, and that's fine. It doesn't matter if it's in there or not from my perspective. If it makes it easier for you, Allison, we can pull it out.
But my point is agriculture is well defined, in my opinion, as to what it is and what it isn't.
I'm not sure that we define it. I believe at the state level it is well defined. I'm not sure that we define it well in our ordinance. People that have agricultural easements and things like that, they have their, I think my mom's farm in Lincolnville, for instance, is technically a farm, and she technically engages in agriculture. I still don't necessarily believe that she should be able to take her tractor and push dirt around into the brook. And I think the likelihood is relatively low that would be an issue, but I just don't see the need. I just don't want it in our language since we don't clearly define it. Let the state deal with that.
Other comments, board, in this regard?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Anything else?
You want to make a motion?
Yeah.
I
Right.
would move that we
Accept the language, but.
accept the language to approve the language to the zoning changes to be sent to voters with the one change of removing the language about the agricultural exemption.
Second.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Not hearing anybody in favor here. Sophie?
Aye.
4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you all.
We have a few action items to go through over, and I'm going to jump around here a little bit and go to the item D, which is the approval of road closure and temporary signs for the Bayview Street Camden Art Walk on the third Thursdays from June to October from 5 to 7 p.m.
Is it okay to just come up?
Yes.
You want me to introduce myself?
That's always a good idea.
Okay, good.
But even though everybody knows you, but it's...
I am Colin Page. I live on Spring Street in Camden. So we did this twice. Should I just go over the whole plan? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So the last year we did this for 2 of the art walks at the end of the summer to close Bayview Street down just on the third Thursday of the month when the galleries have agreed to all have openings coordinated at the same time. But unfortunately, it was when the Delta surge was happening, and then one of the nights was like torrential downpour. So we didn't have we still had people coming out, which is really nice to see, but it wasn't the big effect we were hoping for.
Right.
So since we have no idea what's going to happen this summer, I am optimistically hoping that people will be more comfortable. Last summer, it was nice to be returning to the art walks a little, and we're trying to jump ahead with plans. And I know it's very early to be doing this for this coming summer, but We have the First National Bank has generously sponsored supporting these art walks, so they pay for the banners we put up, help pay for advertising. And for one of the events last year, we had live music on the street. And so I'm talking to musicians. I wanted to have food trucks last year, but as with restaurants and everything else, it's hard to line any of that up in the middle of the summer. So I'm trying to find ways to get this to be a more open, public kind of event. And the earlier, I know it has to be on private property if we do a food truck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not if they apply for a peddler's license.
Right.
Then
There is a permit. You talked to me about getting that, and if we find someone who wants to do it on the street, that's fine. There's also the PG Willie lot, I think would be okay because it's private property.
That'd be a great location.
You can ask for permission we can give permission.
If they have a peddler's license.
Food truck.
To do it on public property. I think
Yes.
we might.
I think it'd be really fun. I was trying to get cold toast tacos, but it was just
They have to have a peddler's license, that's all.
right. Yes.
Colin, I've sent him everything, so
Okay, cool.
he's all set if they find someone.
I'm trying to not
No.
take over all the responsibilities of this. I'm just trying to grease the wheels and delegate as much as possible.
Food truck idea is phenomenal.
It'd be great. And having the music last year was really fun. We had Emmett Layler, whose parents own Camden Jewelry, and he's a great musician.
Yep.
And I would like him he's got multiple different bands that he works with. We're just trying to make plans for that. So if this gets approved this early, I can try to line up a bunch of these people to kind of take over their end of things.
Never too early to plan.
I'll talk to Brian about it.
That's good. Yeah. Well, we have like a bunch of different people we're sort of putting feelers out with to try to get it going. And then the other thing that was fun last year was my kids thought it was great to have this, like they're big proponents of this. So they brought like a youthful component to the art walk, which is since the street's closed, they can run around like maniacs in the middle of the street. And we have a box like I don't know, almost as big as this podium that's full of sidewalk chalk, and we just dump it out, and kids drew all over the street. Yeah, so
I'll never get Asher out of there.
Wait a minute.
Maybe it could be
You mean the
permanent.
chalk's not going to pollute the harbor?
No, it's not going to do anything to the harbor. Allison, it's great. It's environmentally organic. It's organic sidewalk chalk.
Actually,
We already talked about this. I know all about the chalk.
I heard that argument in the West Coast about
Did
they were.
No, the paint isn't. Everything has an impact.
I know it does, and I just
Sorry, I just have a question. Sorry. So it's Bayview, we're closing up to where?
So it's from the entrance to the public landing up by Swans Island Blankets down to the PG Willie lot. So it's not too far.
It's not too far, okay.
No.
And that's because PG Willie wants to maintain their access.
They have to get out sometimes.
They have to, yeah.
And there's people who rent apartments who park in there, and the other businesses like to be able to use that lot. 16 Bayview can use the backside of theirs.
Yep.
And so we did when we did it last year. We sort of talked to all the businesses to make sure
It worked very well.
it wasn't going to.
It worked very well.
Way. Yeah,
I could still get to Uncle Willie's candies. That's all I cared
that's the
about.
most important thing. Yeah,
I can still get from the yacht club.
yes, you can get to your yacht club. Yes.
Well, that's great. We're looking forward to it. So with
That's
that,
brilliant.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve the road closure and temporary signs for Bayview Street Camden Art Walk on third Thursdays from June through October from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
A second.
Oh, we had lots of seconds on that one. Any further discussion? All those in favor here? 3. Sophie? 4-0. You go for it, man.
much.
Enjoy.
Can I ask one more business
Yes.
thing? This might be an Audrey question.
Yes.
If I should address this later, that's
No,
fine.
go ahead.
The banners for the posts. I remember when we first talked about there are a bunch of other events that use those posts, and those should take priority when there's like SIF happening or Camden on Canvas or anything like that. Last year, we put the banners up and basically just left them up through part of the summer. I think it might make more sense, and I think it's on the galleries to take them up and down. Would you like them to be just up for like the week before the art walk, or?
How about you keep them up as long as you see fit, and if we get any questions from the other events,
Right.
I'll reach out to you and ask you about taking them down temporarily while those are happening.
Okay,
Just so
great.
you don't have to
I'm thinking the Camden Cup also uses the
Camden Cup does,
the
yeah.
banners.
Yeah, the classic cup.
This is where everybody
classic,
names their
yeah.
favorite event and says that,
It should be the art walk, though.
one of those good ones. You know?
I'd like to make one more motion that I make a motion that we have clear, warm weather for the events.
Amen.
Bad luck.
All right.
And no variant, and no new variant.
Oh, yeah, I just heard it on the news.
Thank you for your patience.
All right, thank you.
Good to see you.
Hey, Bob, can I just say something?
Yeah.
Colin, thank you so much for taking the lead on organizing those events. It's really great to see our town coming to life, and I'm super excited, and I'm really thankful that you're doing it. So thank you.
It's really nice to hear. I should just, since this is like a public forum, I should mention that Kirsten Serby at the gallery also does a lot of the organizing around this. She's a big part of it. And also the First National Bank sponsoring is one of the reasons this became a bigger thing. And also you guys, I know you weren't on the board yet, the select board yet.
pressured him into
But
this.
the first time I asked for permission to do one thing, everybody spoke up and said, hey, by the way, close the street and make a block party. So it's coming from all of you guys too, so thank you.
Well, keep it going.
Yeah, all right.
Polished
Thank you.
at this. It's very impressive.
Thanks so much for your patience. Moving on to our first action item, which is last meeting, we had tabled this item because everybody, frankly,
We're doing I'm sorry, but we're not doing a great job monitoring the Q&A tonight. And maybe it's related to the art walk. Michelle Peacock
You
says,
almost got out.
did the art walk start in May or June?
is Michelle Peacock a resident?
I think she, does that
Yes.
really? Yes,
Yes.
she is. And she owns one of the inns.
The reason I mention this is because up front we said, like, people here have to introduce them where they live. That's part of our statute. Not
New Harbor House Inn.
Okay, good.
So, thanks, Michelle. Or did it start in June, May? Or,
She's
the motion
right,
said June, but the poster in the packet says May. We are looking forward to attending. What a great point, Michelle. Thank you.
The motion's in June. It's May 19th is the first opening.
Oh, and then we need to amend the motion.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in our packet, okay.
Yes.
I'd like to amend the motion that approval of road closure and temporary signs for Bayview Street, Camden Artwork on third Thursdays from May 19th through October from 5 to 7 p.m.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. All those here in favor?
Aye.
Sophie, aye. 4-0. Good catch.
Any other questions?
Thank you for that good question and answer. Thank you. On back to the item that last time we had late information on the trustees, and we said we would table it for one meeting so everybody had a chance to have any questions to ask whomever, and we have the action now to approve or not two trustees.
I make a motion that we confirm the Public Library Board of Trustees, the two new trustees.
Do you have the names?
Not on the action items. Hold on, I got to find it on here.
You don't have to, but I think it's a good idea. There's two appointees, as I recall.
I just got to find it on the.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and I was wondering, was there contact information?
Natalie Travia and Dr. Jennifer
There we go.
Gramada.
I make a motion that we approve that we confirm the two newest library trustees, Natalie Travia and Dr. Jennifer Gramada, both of Camden, Maine.
I second.
Motion made and second. Discussion.
The only thing I was going to say is that I'm definitely supportive and appreciative, but that it would be great if the contact information for the library trustees, I understand that's sort of their prerogative.
You mean a mass email kind of a?
Just if the website provided contact information in much the same way that all of us have our contact information on the town website, I do think that if you're, and I know the library has taken this up in the past about whether to post contact information for board members on the wite. And I think what they decided is that each member was going to be able to decide, make their own decision about that. I do think that since the library, it is a municipal organization, wouldn't that fall under the same, are they subject to the same public meeting rules?
Nope.
Well,
I wouldn't think so.
as the people who appoint the trustees, I think that it would be
Good
if we could get in the habit of making it easy to, I don't think most of them are opposed to this, but that it should be possible to contact the individual
We should make a
trustees.
request of the president of the trustees to do that.
And that if somebody that doesn't want to post their contact information, it might, not be a good fit, the public committee board role, because that is part of it,
Okay.
is
All right.
getting contacted by random people and learning things.
We can request it.
So, anyway, just a
All right,
side comment, but I
Sure.
support the
Sure.
motion.
All those in favor here? And Sophie?
Aye.
You said, you opened your mouth, and nothing came out. On to the approval of, item B, the approval of renewal, Vittler license and lodging license for the Blue Harbor House in Mixed Greens.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
I make a motion that we approve the renewal vicular license and lodging licenses for Blue Harbor House and Mixed Greens. Do you want more information on
No,
their,
no.
and I'll leave it
There
there.
was motion made in second. Discussion. All those in favor here? 3, Sophie?
Aye.
4-0, thank you. And then C, request from the West Bay Rotary for the approval of Duck Derby.
I'll make a motion that we approve the West Bay Rotary for approval of Duck Derby, and I need to find the dates for that.
Oh,
Dates in here?
I think it is.
I'm looking.
I don't know.
Colin, there's,
It should be before Colin.
I don't think it's there.
I don't know that we have the date then.
What are we looking for?
The date for the Duck Derby.
It's not in the, I don't think.
I don't think it's in the packet. We could approve it with a request that they provide us the date for announcement next time.
I also have a request for the Duck
I
Derby.
have some comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't made a motion yet, but, well, we did, but we can qualify the motion just to request the date so we know what it is.
We might have other things we want
There's
to
one
do.
more. More discussion,
We can
so-
just go in discussion.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Let's hold, let's.
I second.
Okay, motion made in second discussion.
Maybe let Sophie go first.
So,
Okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
so I have issues with the Duck Derby because I pick up ducks on Lake Beach every year. And I strongly encourage the West Bay Rotary to look into other formats of Duck Derby. They could be like virtual, or they could be made of salt, so they dissolve in the ocean. But those plastic ducks, it's like, for me, it's like the example of greenwashing. You're trying to do something great by raising fund, by polluting the ocean. So I know I have very little input, but my recommendation and my wish for the West Bay Rotary is to create an environmentally neutral Duck Derby to protect our harbor.
Yep. Yeah, well, and one of the things you could do is we could qualify the motion to caution the West Bay Rotary that if they can't, I know they've tried really hard to collect the ducks, as it were, in the past. I know this has been an issue before, but we could qualify it to say, we're going to approve it now, but if this continues, we're going to have to look at not approving in the future. Allison, go ahead.
So I share all of Sophie's comments and concerns, and we have tried to work around this in the past. When Peter Burke was president, we had a lively discussion about the whole thing, and they do keep track of how many they lose, and I see them a lot also in the harbor. And so what we did is, I actually thought it turned out to be really great. We combined the Duck Derby a couple of years ago, or the last time it was held. We did a big river harbor cleanup, basically. So, because a lot of what happens, it actually gets trapped underneath the buildings in the Montgomery Dam. And so and there's a lot of other trash. So, we focus on the ducks, but there's also a lot of other trash there. And so after the duck derby, we opened up the gate on the dam. We did a huge, like a big community cleanup. We went and they had extra people getting all the ducks. It was like the biggest effort ever. And we kind of turned it at Waste Watch, the community group got involved, and we kind of turned it into an opportunity to try to collect all the other trash. So I think I'd like to talk to them about doing that again, because in the past, it really hasn't, everybody cleans up, but then there are all these ducks that have been trapped, and then they are slowly released, and that's what ends up out in Lake Beach over the, so I think, using this as an opportunity to do a much better job and to realize that a lot of the time, even when we think we're keeping all our trash out of the ocean, we really aren't. And so maybe we could talk to them about that before we approve it, and when it would be, if.
I don't know when it is. I think we could do both. Are we not going to approve it, and then we'd discuss it first,
Is
or
it
approval?
Memorial Day weekend? Is that when it is?
I think it usually is.
I think we
So
approve.
we've got some time.
I think we can approve it with the condition we have a discussion with them about cleanup and some of the points you're bringing up. We can condition it to that. I think it's just easier.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
And I think somebody needs to take the lead with that rather than dumping it on Audra or somebody. I'd be happy to do that. I'm a member of the West Pier Rotary.
Are you really? Well, Bob, that.
It's your fault.
What is your
I can tag team with you.
long-term plan here?
Bigger ducks. What we do is, we have 2-foot ducks instead of 3-inch ducks, and you believe me, they're easy to catch. But I think, no, I'm just kidding.
Maybe we should.
The ducks are so small. They're so small.
I have 3.
Oh.
There's ways.
They weren't made of plastic. A lot of the problem is they're made of plastic, so they crack and
Correct. And they have pieces everywhere. So I think we can have.
They break off because there's a weight at the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think.
And it's a mold, and there's 2 halves, and they break off, and then you can't,
Especially if
there's
they-
pieces of plastic that
Right.
even if you recover, I have 3 ducks
They're cheap.
on my desk at home.
there's clearly
So,
appetite for talking
anyway,
more about this.
I like the condition, Bob. I agree.
Right.
That would satisfy me. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we are approving it. I understand the condition, and I'll talk with the current president.
Why don't I amend the motion
Sure.
to say that we conditionally approve the duck derby on conditions they notify us the date, and they come back to us with proposals for better cleanup and maybe more ecologically sound participants.
Yep.
Maybe less.
Second.
Okay.
Right, I mean, it would be nice to reach out to Waste Watch also and do I thought people liked that
Sure.
cleanup.
Who in Waste Wash?
I mean, I clearly want to be involved. so,
Okay, all right, fine. All right, is that acceptable modification to motion to you, Sophie? All right, motion,
Yes, I did second it. I
okay,
did.
good. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor here? 3. Sophie,
I
4-0. Thank you. Item E, well, we got a couple of calendar items. First one is the approval of the board of a Monday, March 21st Select Board meeting, briefly to go over some town meeting warrant articles. This meeting is being driven by and Bill can explain better than me, the modification that we're making to the charter because of the a budget vote, which I believe on March 15th, we're planning to bring that to the select board for approval, but we have to have a meeting with Bill.
Public hearing would be the first step on the 15th.
The 15th, public hearing the 15th, and then approval would be within 7 days of that date.
Yeah, it's an odd statute, but you'd think you could take the same action the same night, and basically you have to have a meeting within 7 days to
cover.
then move the item essentially to the warrant in the final form
Right.
that it may be in, because the form might change a little bit based on your public hearing.
Public hearing.
So that's the reason for the March 21st date, is because we've got this sort of consecutive thing. You've got to have notice in the paper 7 days before the hearing.
Right.
Then you've got to have the hearing, and then within 7 days, you have to move it to the warrant, so.
And it is a side benefit in my mind. We've got a number of warrant articles that we need to address in the next weeks, and because of and that's the reason for the next one too, by the way. That we
Same
have.
time, 6:30?
Yes, that we would move meeting days because we've lost a month in planning for, budget and everything else because the printing requirements, the ballots. So this one's though is special. It's at the moment limited, do we know, to be addressing just that one warrant approval for Monday, the 21st.
I'll make a motion, we have a special select board meeting on Monday, March 21st for warrant.
I second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor here? 3, Sophie's 4, yes vote, Sophie. March, thank you. March 21. Okay, the other item is related. There's a couple of things have gone on here. We've got to be more careful in the future. And this is going to happen again in November election anticipation. The current dates, we're trying to squeeze in this April 5th date into the window, which I believe we have until April 12th is the last possible date, which didn't coincide with another select board meeting. So we went back to recommending. We go back to the 5th and 19th, which we had changed, as you recall, because we're trying to
We're trying to coordinate with spring break.
We had spring break. There's another factor involved, though, in parallel. If you take a look at the calendar, it's kind of weird. With the March 15th to the existing schedule, there was 4 weeks between select board meetings.
I didn't have to see you for 4 weeks?
Well, that's why we wouldn't want you to do that.
Oh, okay.
Not to mention that you shouldn't do it anyway. But that's the purpose of this recommended motion to change the dates in April.
I'll make a motion, we change the April dates for the select board meetings to April 5th and April 19th, 2020.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All those here in favor? Sophie?
Aye.
4-0. Thank you very much. At the end of our action items, we will move to town manager reports. Anything, Audra?
So I'll be very brief. The second public meeting for the parking management study was last night. We had a small group that attended on Zoom from the public, and I think 1 or 2 members of the public that joined in person. Live. So even though it was a small group, we had a lot of really good, thoughtful questions, and just wanted to thank everybody who attended because it was very evident that people are putting a lot of thought into this, and it was great to have those sorts of questions because it gave everyone the opportunity to flesh out the study and the findings and the recommendations a bit more. So thank you everyone who attended.
That's on YouTube, so I think that'll be, if we can put that on the town
Yes.
website and even maybe with a pop.
It's on there already. So thank you for saying that. So please,
Resource for people.
yes, please watch if you weren't able to attend, and we're going to try to do a really good job of posting all that information. I'm having some technical difficulties posting John Burke's actual presentation, but you can watch it if you click the news item online because there's a link to the YouTube video of it.
Right.
I've been very involved in the Mid-Coast Council of Governments Executive Director search. I'm on the interview panel for that. We're going to make an offer to an excellent candidate. And one of the points that was raised during the interview process by this candidate was that it was pretty noticeable that on the MCOG Board of Directors, MCOG was formerly the MCED, the Mid-Coast Economic Development District.
They changed the name?
They changed their name, and it always used to be MCOG. When I worked at that organization, it was MCOG.
Okay.
But there's some politics in the region with Lincoln County. It's complicated. I won't get into it. But anyway, the candidate made the point that there's a noticeable absence of elected officials on the board of directors. And that's something that, again, over the past few years, there used to be a higher proportion of elected officials versus, municipal officers. And I think that that's one of the things in the last few years that has sort of led to a gap of knowledge and understanding of what the organization does and what it is and how it can assist communities and businesses. Camden, we had Roger Moody for many, many years. He was the president. He was very involved. He did an excellent job on the governance of that organization, but he was on it both as a Camden resident, but also as a county commissioner for Knox. But I do think that it's worth considering when we have to appoint our board representatives from the town of Camden, that one of you strongly look into it and consider it, because I think that, having more elected officials involved is going to be a good thing for the organization ultimately, and just is going to help it be stronger in what it's able to offer to communities.
Maybe you should send out information on McHogg to all of us.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much all I have.
Select Board, Ms. McKellar.
I was not expecting you to call on me so quickly, and I'm not prepared.
Mr. Ratner.
A couple of things. Number one, I attended the library board of directors meeting last week before, whenever it was. And one of the things that came up is their electric bill, because of the rises in prices for electric uses, is considerably up, something in the 70%. And my question is how does that affect the Siemens contracts in terms of, because the Siemens contracts are guaranteed on savings, and yet the prices of electricity, I just was thinking about
the
that.
Siemens project is based on reduction in usage, and that just turns into savings. But yeah, this electric rate thing is really crazy for all of us.
It up that we're seeing.
Understand.
It is savings in comparison to what it would have been.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because
In dollars.
we didn't have any indication of that. I just, that rise in electric bill was substantial, so I'm just sort of curious. But we know that there's things happening.
Did they talk about
They
whether
didn't
their
talk about the
is in-
usage. I just wanted to clarify in my mind what's going on with
Good
Siemens.
question.
And-
Sorry that, but I think that's covered in the formula they have. But we got the dollars to double check.
Okay,
that.
it'd be curious to know.
Especially with this escalation that's going on. The bigger question is, there are other methods of attacking energy costs that don't allow you to get into a 70% swing. If like what we have.
I mean, I would say that we're tracking, because of all of the energy savings, our costs are comparable to last year.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. So I mean, we're not, of course, recognizing the same savings we were hoping to if prices had remained flat, but because we made those investments, the impact on us is pretty.
This is good.
They take that into account.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, at least.
I just wanted to bring that up, that something that we should be aware of.
That's a good question, because the increase in electricity is for everyone, right?
Well, it's not just electricity. It's oil.
Yeah.
It's all the
Energy costs.
All the utilities, and it's what is the PUC doing is really
I know.
an interesting question. So thank you, Mark,
now.
for raising this, because
It is, especially now because it's about as bad as it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah.
Most
So,
likely.
Anyway, so that was one. Number two, it was brought up earlier tonight, and I am curious what's going on with ransom and the tannery. Do we have any new information on that?
Yeah, but can we not do that tonight?
That's
It's like a
gonna be-
whole agenda
That's a future
item.
agenda item.
Then I just
That's a good question.
let's make sure that's an agenda item.
Absolutely.
Believe me, it's the core of discussion in the town. I would have said that at Steve too, but we're not so naive not to understand what the schedule is and what the challenges are.
I didn't want to bring it up then, but I just want to make sure that it's something.
It might be, yeah.
And I believe also that the Energy Committee has reached out to Bob and Audra for a meeting or contact or something.
No.
Energy, the
We
director.
don't have any advocacy committees, advocacy groups that we are, that the town is sponsoring.
I'm understanding that you and Audra are going to discuss with the former chair of the Energy Committee what's going on with committees.
Let's talk about it right here.
Yeah, I think that what was said was the appropriate forum is not Bob and I, it's the entire select board.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I'm just
Exactly.
going by the emails I saw. I thought that was the last thing I saw.
No. The email I saw was asking for the town, myself or Audra, to approve using the conference room for an advocacy group because the committees weren't operating, and to it was an advocacy group because they wanted to go out on their own on their own to help the residents of our town to, to improve their energy situation in their homes. And as your email earlier stated, that's more like a 501c3 kind of an activity. It was not, nothing was mentioned in the email about committees.
Well, that may be a great topic of discussion for like, what is our policy for letting, because sometimes if we don't have committees, we might, I think it is appropriate to allow the use of our space for.
Well, it wasn't about the use, it wasn't about use of space. It had nothing to do with use of space. It was advocating or not, whether somebody can, if an advocacy group in this town wants to go out and be a 501c3 and advocate what they're advocating, they don't need to come to the select board for that. They can just do it.
Oh, I thought maybe they wanted to use the meeting room.
Oh, no, that wasn't the core issue. It was not, that's like the tertiary issue about using the conference room. Anybody can use, it's a public facility. It's under Audra's, it's under Audra's control as far as I'm concerned. This is town hall.
No. So if a community group would like to use the conference room, please get in touch with Janice Eason, and she can schedule you to use it.
We do that free of charge, or?
Yep.
This got skewed between being a committee question versus something else. It was something else.
Okay,
There's nothing wrong with discussing that with the select board, even something else, but we don't need to approve that. They can, and I can go out and canvass my neighbors and help them to redo energy. I don't need your approval to do that.
Yeah. No, I was on vacation last week and I was seeing partial emails.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I didn't quite understand.
No, that's a good question.
Last I saw was what's going on. Okay.
Yep. Anything else, Mark?
Working that. Yes. Lastly, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Mardi Gras evening. Because today is Mardi Gras.
Fat Tuesday.
What precisely does Mardi Gras celebrate? Can you remind me?
The end of Lent.
End of Lent.
End of Lent. So for 40 days, you have not been.
I gave up eating and sleeping for Lent, and now I can go to bed and sleep and eat.
Huh.
It means it's Fat Tuesday because
So that's why they call it
typically
Fat
you
Brought up at church.
Fat Tuesday.
That's why they call it Fat Tuesday.
It's Mardi Gras because it's the end of Lent and you can eat butter and.
It morphed into basically New Orleans figuring out, let's celebrate the end of Lent. Lent is, as you know what that is. And but the Pope has never advocated Mardi Gras, I can tell you that. But I asked him. But no, it's just, it's to go out and drink and eat to your heart's content because Lent is over.
Is that today, did you say? Yes. Oh.
Yes. It's the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday.
Correct. Tomorrow's Ash Wednesday. You'll all get our ashes.
But if we're going to celebrate Mardi Gras, then I hope we're going to celebrate Eid and other festivities as well.
Yeah. And anything else, Marco?
That's it for me.
Now, Allison.
Oh, I'm fixated on Sherman's Cove, and I think we all should be. So maybe I'll pull up quick. Let's see if I can. Let me see all of my. This isn't my favorite part of Sherman's Cove, but anyway, I did want to check on what the status or how we could best move forward with something that the Select Board discussed earlier, which was trying to secure and evaluate our options for our public access points there. At one point, we said we're going to dedicate up to. I think it was $20,000 to follow up on the recommendations from the 1994 Harbor Access Study, which basically identified all of the possible public access points, the ones we know we have control over, the ones we don't, and specifically Sherman's Cove, because but that nothing has happened with that. I understand it's really complicated and sometimes just allocating money to it doesn't do that much good, but Sherman's Cove is like this just amazing place that people aren't able to get to. We have 3 access points and 2 of them are, one of them is completely impassable. Another one is like borderline. I'd really encourage everybody to try to walk out onto Sherman's Point Road, go down to the end, and you can't even tell that it's, so this one here, you can't even tell that it's a public access point. So this is the public access point on Sherman's Point Road. And we did get this fence moved a little bit. This boundary on this side is very well defined because of an agreement with that property owner. We have an agreement, we know all of that. And so this one here has never been really litigated. Anyway, there are a lot of approaches here, but you can see the public gets here and there's no
Way to go.
there's nowhere to go. And this used to be that the public could get all the way out. There's a rock out here. So you walk along this road and go out here. So
Well, shouldn't this be some kind of something we could take action in the future or evaluate in the future as a topic? You know, you're
we've already had it on an agenda once. We all agreed to allocate resources. And it's just, I mean, I've forgotten about it a little bit too, because we thought, oh, great, we all voted that we're in agreement that this is a priority. But it might be
this
that.
wasn't on our priority list.
But I'm kind of doing this partially. We voted to allocate funding to it. I could send you the.
I believe you.
I'm kind of doing it because Bill's here. And just maybe if we could get his brain. This is the Harbor Road access point. This is a citizen that's made this little bridge here.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a stream. So you kind of come down here, you can walk through here and then go along there. But it's basically one of these things where it's actually really kind of nice. One of the residents put these down here. So you can get down here. But anyway, the point being, when people find out that there is access down here, they're really excited about it.
Sure.
This is actually where the pier is going to go, but one of the things that happens, and I can understand why some of the private property owners get frustrated about this, people come down to these access points and at low tide, and then the tide comes up, and there are times when it's not possible to get back over, and so, you know, once in a while people have to go on private lawns and things like that. But I do think just maybe going back to that 1994 access study, because it's not just Sherman's Point Road. There are a bunch of other places that people have brought up to me recently, like whatever happened with Bay Road and whatever happened with Beacon Ave, and so I guess this is just a plea to.
Well, I think it's one of the things we ought to, when we take a look at our priorities again, we have to decide where we're, you know.
Well, it's not us that needs to do it,
No,
so it's more like
I
a
know.
contracted thing.
Well, we need to direct those things, though, and because we only have limited staff to do stuff and to evaluate. It is a big issue.
Before the next pier comes up, I also think we should look into a moratorium. You know, we all agree every single time that one of these harbor applications come up, we all say, well, we really should have updated the ordinance, you know, because of sea level rise. This thing is only going to be 6 feet above mean high tide, which is 9.9 feet, which means it will overtop during storms.
Right.
And they would build it higher if our ordinance allowed. So how do we actually make those things a priority and then get them done?
Yep.
Because what continues to happen is development applications come in, and somehow we find time to do those things. But we don't find time. I don't know what the solution is, but maybe more staffing.
I have a list of thingies. I'm going to put harbor access issues as something to bring up at our next discussion on what we're going to do about it. We have to bring it to a head, as nothing's going to happen.
Right. This is Harbor Road, and one of the things we need to do is survey the
Okay.
width here.
Okay.
This is the parking area.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for listening.
We could do signage and
Well,
clearing and all sorts of stuff.
there is some signs.
Especially with all this funding becoming available, because it does connect to like resiliency in some ways. And
One of the streets she's talking about has signage, and somebody keeps taking the sign down.
Interesting.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, it's like one of our committees really, and maybe it'll be the Conservation Commission.
Yes.
Needs to go and be tasked with going out to all of these public access points all the time and just checking to make sure that everything's okay there.
And that segues into my comment to remind us, these are reminders in a sense, Allison, and that's in the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I spoke to, That's, we have a couple of applications in. I actually had a great conversation today with Rebecca Jacobs from the Knox and Lincoln Soil and Water Conservation District. She's also a Camden resident, but for anybody that's not familiar with that organization, they do really a lot of Conservation Commission type activities, but throughout all of Knox and Lincoln County. And they, I think, would be, I'm not going to put, well, certainly I'm hopeful that Rebecca, sort of personally as a Camden resident will do it, but also, sort of going with this whole regionalization thing when possible, that linking in with the rest of the county. We have, a lot of our conservation activities are related to a watershed, and we share a watershed with multiple towns. And so we were brainstorming ways that they might be able to advise the Conservation Commission or work with them.
Well, I know you're doing things, and the purpose of my comment was I know that when I was speaking about it, because I get questions all the time about resurrecting the Conservation Commission.
Sure, yeah, and we do have a couple applications
Great.
in.
Well, we're moving. We're going to keep it moving.
Yep.
With that, we go to Sophie. You have anything, Sophie?
No.
Okay. With that, then I would ask for a motion to leave select board meeting and to enter executive session under MRSA 4056A personnel, subsection C, use of real property, and subsection E, legal rights and duties.
So moved.
Ash Wednesday is when Lent starts.
It's correct.
Says Michelle,
It's
so we
correct.
got that
I had
a
it
little bit
wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, I had it wrong. Second?
Second.
All those in favor here? Sophie?
I
4-0. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bruce. We'll start to...